You had a question, Stephen?
Good evening. Hello, good Happy New Year to everyone. The question I would put is prefaced by the fact that I've been advised by one of the councillors this evening that the outcome, the amended strategy, i.e. in result of the consultation, goes to Cabinet on the 1st of February and should then become a public document. And assuming the Cabinet accept that amended strategy, that will go before the full council on the 1st of March. So although I, as North Wiltshire Friends of the Earth chairman, and I don't know whether you, but I certainly haven't seen anything coming out of this thing so far, but I am assured that those dates will reveal things. I'm also advised that during the course of 2020, there will be progressive development within the council of the delivery plan of this strategy. So that's the sort of broad framework that I understand the council is working to. Having pointed those things out, I would say that I am very anxious that this strategy isn't just another, as many have termed it, blah, blah, blah exercise, but actually gets down to delivery of this. And that Wiltshire Council considers very seriously what that means, how these objectives, these targets are actually delivered. Because the council itself cannot get the county to net zero 2030 on its own work. I mean, that is a totally ridiculous notion. So it has to engage with the county at large, the various communities, the various businesses, the various sectors of one kind and another, to see how they are going to engage in the delivery of this. So when this amended strategy comes forward in 1st of February and then approved by the council at large in March, I really believe it's absolutely essential that the Wiltshire Climate Alliance is looking at practical delivery of serious objectives which have been set within this climate strategy. And that, to me, is the real test of whether all of this means something or is just another exercise in wasting our time.
Thank you, Stephen. I think that's a statement rather than a question, but I think you've got some good points in there. Adam and then Brig.
Yeah, just to build on what Stephen was saying about timescales, so everyone understands. So exactly, the Cabinet meeting is on the 1st of February. The actual papers will be issued 7 days before that. So on the 25th of January, the updated strategy document and the response to the consultation will be published. And if you go on the Wiltshire Council forward plan for meetings, you can register now to get that sent to you when it's published. So we will have a week to review that and respond. So if we want to raise any questions or make any statements at the Cabinet meeting, we'll need to turn that around very, very quickly that week, the last week of January. And that, as it's marked on the forward plan, that's a Cabinet decision meeting. So they will make a decision on the strategy, and then it's for adoption at the 15th of February meeting. So there's unlikely to be any great debate probably at the Cabinet meeting. However, we can still make statements or raise questions at the full council meeting afterwards. So that's the sort of process when we come to the breakout group. If everyone bears that in mind, that's the sort of process that we want to be sort of following on.
Yeah, and that's in item 2 on the agenda. We want to look at planning for that, and we need to know the dates. And I'm still a little bit confused. I've got the same dates as you have, Adam, but maybe Graham can confirm that.
Yeah, I can confirm those dates, Bill. I'm happy to go with those dates. As far as I know, that's exactly the dates where everything is coming through. Yeah. It's slightly been delayed because there's obviously a business plan and a budget to get through full council And to be honest, a lot of what happens, I guess, with the process within the delivery from Wiltshire Council will be about where the money is and how they can do it and what have you. So I think it's fortunate that we get the budget and we get the business plan and then we get the strategy so we all understand where we are. Thank you.
So they're all coming out in the same meeting, Graham, are they?
No. The business plan and the budget will come before, my understanding, at least from the cabinet perspective. But rest assured, the timescales you were given with regard to the climate strategy are correct, as far as I know.
So it's the 1st of February for the cabinet meeting,
Correct.
15th of February for the review, full council.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Yeah, I think just to pick up that point, Graham, I think having the budget before the strategy is endorsed seems a bit the wrong way around, because maybe you want to adjust your budget to fit the adopted strategy, but that's too late, I guess, for that. Okay, Brig.
Yes, so I think now might be the opportune time for me to talk about our plan for one of our plans for those meetings, particularly
Can we leave that for item 2, that Brig? We've got that under item 2 to deal with those specifically. Okay.
Okay, I want to get in at some point and talk about our Valentine cards.
You will. Andrew.
Yes, just a very brief thing to add to what Stephen has just said. The problem before us, which I hope we can talk about at in our breakout groups, is simply that some of the council's policies and some cabinet members' policies are contrary to climate emergency action, such as in transport, on roads, a negative attitude to active travel, such as on land use, going forward with building on greenfields and on county farms, and in other areas as well. So we want the climate strategy to be followed by action plans. We work hard in our topic groups to recommend what actions the council needs to take, as councils elsewhere in England and the UK are taking. And yet we, how can we get the council to build action plans that go against their individual policies, but support climate emergency action? And under that, they've pledged to make the council itself carbon net zero by 2030. The cabinet has very noticeably not pledged to support making the county of Wiltshire carbon neutral by 2030, which was the other climate emergency motion. Sorry, that wasn't as brief as I thought it would be.
Andrew, I think the point there is very well made, and I think that's absolutely the sort of question we should be firing at them at cabinet. So, pick that up under what sort of things we're going to talk to cabinet about in questions and statements. I think it's really absolutely right. I don't understand it, and I understand what Graham's saying, but I think there is a gulf between the reality of what they're doing and the ambitions of the climate strategy. Stephen, once more before we move on, please.
Yeah, thank you. To answer Andrew's question, the answer is, how do we get to action plans? The answer lies with the councillors, because this is a council plan, strategy, action plan, whatever it is. And the people who are responsible for this are the political members of the council. So that's where I believe our focus needs to be, on the elected members of the council. It's their responsibility, if they believe in this, to deliver it. And if they don't believe in it, to be told that that isn't acceptable. So I would argue that that's where the focus should be, on the elected members.
And I think you're right, and I think that's one of the reasons we want to ask the question to make the statements in cabinet and at the full council meeting, because that is a point. The point has to be very well made that there is this goal, however you look at it. And I agree with Andrew to a large extent of these areas that they are signally ignoring the climate crisis. So let's pick that up again in the detail, because we've got to work out a plan of how we get to asking those questions at the next item. Okay, so planning for the 1st and 15th of February. What I'd like, I don't know if we can do this, Chris, is a poll of what I'd like people to think about is there are two things happening. One is that we're going to ask questions and make statements at those two meetings in either cabinet or council. That's one thing. And the other thing is there is a demonstration planned to celebrate the third anniversary of that acknowledgement of the climate emergency, and also to make the point that we want more action. So we need people who can help with that. If you can, I'm asking please, because we don't want two people running each of these things. We want help from you all 47 of you. So I'm asking Kelly and Graham to help as well. We need people to help us to deliver this in a really positive way. So please think about which area you'd like to work in most, and that's fine if you want to do questions and statements or the other one. But we do need active volunteers to come in and support us in that. And please put your name into the participants, sorry, in the chat. Put it in the chat which area you would prefer to be in terms of working up the main thing. Of course, you can be in both. That's not a problem, but we need active people.
No, okay. I've just worked out that I can let participants choose rooms. So bear with me a second. I might be able to
let's see what happens then. We might have all in one room.
Yeah, hang on. A room.
We'll make it 10 minutes, okay? Greg, go on. Give us your party piece on the card, and then we'll move on.
So one of the ways that we exercise influence is by influencing our councillors, letting them know that we're still around and we still want more than the good words that they've got in their strategy. We actually want actions. And because their next meeting is the 15th of February, that's the day after Valentine's Day, we have a plan which is for all the members of Wiltshire Climate Alliance to send Valentine's cards to their local councillors, saying, if you want us to love you, then you'd better love the planet. And that means getting a better strategy that's actually got action plans and targets in it, as Graham was talking about. I'm glad they've already got that in mind, but we need to reinforce that by messages going to every councillor. And Valentine's Day is a good day to do it because it's the day before their meeting. So now if I can just share screen, I'll show you the Valentine's cards that we've been working on, that you can either print out as a card or you can send as an e-card by email to your local councillors. And we've been working on a few designs for these. Here's one, if I can share screen.
Yeah,
yes,
should be okay.
Share, there we are. So as you see, that will print out as a card. You fold down the middle. And on the inside, it says there's a blurb there, which may change slightly before we send it out, but basically saying it is the wrong way round to be doing the budget first and then looking at the climate strategy afterwards. It's a climate emergency. The emergency should come first, and you decide what you're going to do about it, and then you set the budget. And there's a bit more about climate change and COP and everything else. And finish it up, please put some real action in your climate strategy and don't just settle for more good intentions and what Greta Thunberg would call blah, blah, blah. And best wishes from your constituents. And so if we can get everyone in the Wiltshire Climate Alliance to send one of these to their local councillor, that will sharpen their minds up ahead of the meeting. We haven't got just the one design. We've also had Eva's housemate Brad has been working on some alternative designs for us. There's one, and there's another one, and there's another one. So those will all be in a newsletter which we'll be working on and sending out in the forthcoming week, hopefully. And Let me stop sharing that. That's one part of our action plan for the meeting on the 15th, as well as asking them questions and as well as turning out and making a presence outside the council chamber on that day. And that's my bit. I've said it.
Thank you, Brig. Brilliant. And I think that's just one part of that first plan. And I think it's really fantastic. Well done to all of you guys who've been working on it. Graham, did you want to respond to that? I can see your hands up.
Yeah, just briefly. I love the cards. Really good idea. But if you give a message, make it bullet points. The things you want people to read, because if it was as long as the one Brig showed, it would have been in the bin before I'd had a chance to read it all. I just want those top liners, bang, bang, bang. Yeah, they've got a point. Nice of them to send me a card. Yeah, I'm going to sign on to it. I'm not sure, it's up to you, but that's just my advice. As a marketing man, I'd keep it brief. And somebody else said positive. So as positive as you can with, of course, the commitment to do more, obviously.
Thank you, Graham. Appreciate your contribution there. Okay. Julian, you made your point in the message. Do you want to say anything else before we move on?
Not really, just to say that, I mean, as well as all this, which is absolutely wonderful, it's also very important, obviously, to establish private individual conversations with the councillors, and with all these number of people, hopefully we can do that with some of the councillors. And we have got a sort of scheme where we sort of meet them at area boards, but I don't think this really fits in with the area board schedule. But at any time people can talk to their councillors, and it's a good thing to do.
Okay. Thanks, Julian. Right. Let's try this brave move,
yeah.
Chris.
All right. There's two groups. 1st of February, which is questions and how we're going to pressure the council. And then the 15th, can you hear me? The 15th is about the demonstration and who can get involved and commit to doing stuff. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. If you choose which room you want to go into, so if you want to get, or you can change from one to the other halfway through if you want to. Okay, off we go. Are we all back? 44 of us back now. I think that's it. Shall I give a quick update to what our group said, and then we can do it for the first?
Yeah.
So basically, we've got 8 or 9 volunteers, including one that wasn't there, for a quick working group. I think I'll call a meeting in a couple of weeks' time, or maybe even in 10 days' time. And as many of those can come along, that'd be great. Some interesting ideas, basically similar kind of things we've done before, but maybe all dress up in the same color or same 2 colors, be a bit more impactful. Some placards naming particularly councillors with their voting history. Maybe the Green Heart thing, which is something that the Climate Coalition is using as a symbol, but I think so is that tower block. So which I'm dreadful because I forget names, but you know the one I'm talking about. Grenfell was Green Heart, wasn't it? But anyway, there we go. Well, that's it, really. I think it should be good. Over to you, Bill. Bill, you're muted.
Yeah, shall I feedback?
Whoever.
Yeah, go Adam. Yeah.
Can I just jump in? There was one thing that I quite liked that you missed. Sorry, I took notes. I think it was Collect was saying that we could have like a mail sack full of Valentine's cards and deliver them to the councillors at that meeting.
On the questions and statements breakout. So the process is, as we outlined before, that the document will be published on the 25th. And we only then have a couple of days to actually submit questions if they're going to be answered in advance of the meeting on the 1st. So what we decided we'd do is we'd have a pre-meeting next week, or as soon as we can convene it, of those who want to be involved in that, to develop questions based on the current strategy and our response to it, on the assumption that a lot of those questions would probably still be valid. And then have another meeting on the day the document's issued, hopefully having had a chance to at least skim read the document, and then select the relevant questions and see if there are any other questions that we need to address. So we then very quickly get out our sort of final set of questions, probably on the Wednesday or Thursday. I think it's actually the Wednesday, so it's the day after the document comes out. So there's a very quick turnaround. So if we do the pre-meeting beforehand, we'll have a chance of getting some good questions in. by then.
Okay, Adam, I've just looked at my diary. I said we'd have a meeting in a week's time. That's the 12th, 13th. So we've got the people who are in the questions and statements meeting room flagged, so they're going to be invited. So anybody else who wants to come to that questions and statements meeting on the 12th, 13th to review what we have already, to try and make those basic questions that we go to, as Adam says, on the 25th to see whether they're still relevant. So it's either 12th or 13th. I'm not sure whether we've got a topic group meeting on that night, actually, one of those nights. But if we haven't, we'll aim for that night. Okay, so that's, I think, a very productive period. And I hope it's helped everyone start to think about the things we need to do, both in action and in questions. Interesting that, and thank you for the feedback, Graham, that Graham suggested that we should be really putting questions in and avoiding making statements unless we feel it's absolutely, we feel you have to, because the questions, good questions will do a lot more than a statement will. Okay, Andrew, then Stephen.
Yes, this is going to be a great dry run for something we need to do better in 2022 than in the past, which is coordinating our questions to Cabinet, other committees in full council in a structured way.
Agree with that, Andrew. Yeah. Stephen, are you still?
Can I just clarify something from my own mind? We've got a meeting of the Cabinet on the 1st of February, and we've got a meeting of the full council on the 1st of March, which was confirmed. What exactly is the meeting on the 15th of February?
That is the full council where they're going to be adopting the strategy on the one on the 15th.
Graham?
I'd have to look at my diary, which I will now, to see whether there are 3 meetings as such. So if you carry on chatting, I'll have a quick look.
That's definitely, I looked at it about an hour before the meeting. I went on the forward planner, and it's definitely the 15th is where they're adopting it. So
should we also be putting questions to the 15th meeting?
Yeah, sorry, our session covered both first, the Cabinet and the full council.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, Stephen, the development of the questions to full council will be from the output from the Cabinet, so we can, it will carry on into the full council meeting. I think it works quite well. Yeah, I had a room with the same thing, Stephen. So it doesn't matter because we'll have the 15th or the 1st. It doesn't actually matter. Once the 1st is gone, then we've got either to the 15th or the 1st of March. Okay, so we have a bit of a timetable. We've got a session on questions and statements on the 12th or 13th, and then we're going to do one as Adam has said on the 25th. I don't know whether you guys on the action side have set another meeting up, but it might be, you said, in a couple of weeks. Chris, is that soon enough? It is
yeah, well, in the next 10 to 14 days, something like that. I'll work something out and get something out next day or two. Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, so moving on to something completely different. Although this obviously on the same theme, looking at what we are going to do for goals for WCA and as individuals or your group, if you belong to a group as well, maybe your group has got some goals to discuss, and we're going to try and do this in smaller breakout sessions. But before we do that, I think Adam suggested, I think it's a good idea that we reflect on the outcomes from the steering group, which we had, I can't remember now, it's probably September, October time, where we were trying to plan for next year. I don't know if you've got that available, Adam, to go through. That would be really helpful.
I'll just have to dig it out, so carry on talking. I'll see if I can.
Okay. Yeah, I think everyone said we want to see more action, and I think that's right. But it goes across the piece. It doesn't just go for the council. It goes for all of us as well. And I know we're all doing our bit, that maybe we could try and do a little bit more locally, or we have a different idea about how we want to try and start delivering stuff. And I know we'll come to the land use meeting later, but we've got a really good target there of things we want to do in the year, in terms of setting out how the green blue infrastructure strategy can be brought into by the local community over time. So it's that sort of idea that what can we do that will change things in the county, and picking up a point that a number of people already made about the fact that it's not just the council, it's the whole county we're trying to deal with here. Are there things that we as a group can be doing that helps to tackle that bigger issue? Okay, so thank you, Adam. Do you want to go in with that?
Yeah. So this is what we put together back in October in terms of what we thought we'd do this year. So that at some point this year that there's going to be the local plan and the local transport plan consultations. They were due to be in the spring, but I believe that's been delayed because of everything being delayed. So at some point we'll have those, and as we did last time, that'll be a major sort of campaign that we'll be developing. We just need to know the timescales for those. One thing that Graham's been leading on, Graham Martin, is engagement with the area board. And so in some areas that's working really well. What we'd really like to make sure is that that's working at every area board across the 20 or so that across the county. And I know Graham's been working on building up his network of representatives at those, but that is a key way to get engaged at a meaningful level, at local level with councillors, particularly if you've got an active environmental group in that area, like for instance we have in Caution. And also deepen the relationship as far as we can do with key councillors and officers. That's easier said than done. I think they have to want to engage with us, but it's something we did a sort of relationship mapping when we had this away day, and we probably need to revisit that as a steering group. We thought in terms of engagement with our members and general public, we wanted to look at the topic groups again, as we'll be talking about later today, and see if there are any gaps in that as well. For instance, food is something we obviously critical area. We're not really focusing on that, and what those topic groups are all about and what they're going to do. Business and sort of community groups, community organisations is something that we've talked about a lot. We've never really done that. So it'd be great to think about how we could do that. And that's particularly relevant, I think, in terms of the wider carbon impact of the sort of zero carbon by 2030. Just keeping membership going, get more active engagement from members. It links with the educational sector, particularly through our youth group. And we have got a few links across with other counties, like in Oxfordshire and Dorset and Swindon, if you can call that another county. But there are groups similar to WCA in other areas. It'd be great to do that. In fact, in February, we've got a joint session, haven't we, with the Dorset group. So that's one example of that. And Brig had an interesting idea about sort of engagement at Twin Towns level, which is probably something that's more local groups rather than WCA, but we can sort of encourage that. We talked, at the moment, we're just an informal association. So the question is whether we create ourselves as a more formal legal structure, charity, BENCOM or something like that, and whether we actually want to raise money to recruit an employee, which would really gear up our ability to sort of execute, whereas at the moment we're all very much sort of part-time volunteers and so on. To do that, we'd have to raise funds and strengthen our processes. Talking of raising funds, it'd be a great opportunity to just put up the donate button, remind people. At the moment, all our funds are purely from donations from members. So if you wanted to throw a £5 or so, or a tenner or 20 or 50 our way tonight, I'm sure Christian or someone will put the button up for you, and it'd be great if you could do that. And then sort of further development of our strategy, depending on the outcome of the strategy, the Wiltshire Council strategy, what we thought would be a good idea, rather than sort of continually criticise, is actually to have a point of view on how to get to net zero for Wiltshire, and use that as a way of evaluating Wiltshire Council's plans. So I think that's something that we could look at after we see the next iteration of the strategy, and see if there are any major emission reduction initiatives coming out of that we could actually sort of champion and lead on. So those were the things we thought. Having looked in the game, I think that's all still relevant. Great to have comments on those and develop them further this year. I will just stop sharing that.
I think the point there is that that's a fairly high level and a steering group view of where we should go. The question to members is that what you think WCA should be spending its time on? And I think that's the question. So if you have a specific issue that you want to bring into WCA as to how and how we can help with that issue, then please mention it. Don't just leave it. Hannah.
Hi, I think that all sounds really good. The other thing I wondered, I know it's an issue of capacity, but speaking as someone who's running a sort of local group, it would be really good to have some opportunities to sort of exchange ideas about what we're doing as our local groups, and to have, some sort of get together of all the local groups. Just because we're probably all doing lots of duplicating, reinventing the wheel type things. For instance, we're sort of near the border with Gloucestershire, and we get lots of ideas from Nailsworth and Stroud groups that are a bit quite advanced. And one of the Nailsworth groups is going to just give us all their resources from a retrofit fair. They're going to give us, they've just given us, so it's, I don't know if you can help facilitate those kind of exchanges of
Hannah,
with the kind of local groups.
What is your group focus? Is it just a general community group, or has it got a focus?
It's Sustainable Shurston, so we've got topic groups broad, similar to Wiltshire Climate Alliance, and then so we're one of our main aims is communicating and sort of outreach, which obviously has been a lot harder since COVID. But we've had some successes that we could share with people, and I think our little groups are kind of one of the keys to kind of outreach as well. So just the opportunity to have something like that.
Yeah, no, thank you. That actually every 6 months or so we have a sort of on the agenda of the members meeting as a sort of sharing of groups. But we probably don't publicise it enough, but we should do that more often, because it is always a very useful session, and it's a great way of sharing ideas between groups. I'm not sure if you've been on one of those previously, but we do those, and we will schedule another one soon. Specifically on your retrofit thing, I don't think you're part of the energy topic group, but that's our main focus in the energy topic group. So I'll be very interested to hear from you more detail around that, because we're certainly planning to do some events of that sort around retrofit. So I'll follow up.
I'll try and join that group.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, and I think sort of answering your point, Hannah, is if you look in the topic groups, there's the 3 topic groups at the moment that are active, and they're all dealing with specific issues. And Sustainable Shurston and I know as well, Sustainable Warminster very well, who are really developing lots of stuff, are very broad based, and so we're very broad based, but tried to put things into topics, because then it makes it easier to discuss a particular subject. And if you feel that it hasn't got a group that works for you, then say so. We'll have a sustainable towns group if you wanted to, so everyone who's in a sustainable town can join it and share ideas. I'm very happy to put that into a topic exactly, but it certainly is a group that could work together, if that helps you. And we can, I know there are at least 4 sustainable towns in Wiltshire, aren't there? So there are probably more.
Yeah, I'll try and encourage our group to attend more of the topic groups, because we have kind of different people. I mean, we're actually just a village, so it's kind of the same people running every group. But we'll try and get to the Climate Alliance meeting.
And if you think one of the if you think there's a topic missing, say so. say, why aren't we dealing with waste, for example? Because we have one there was a waste group, but it's no longer active at the moment because we need people to manage that group. And at the moment, we've not got that resource, if you like. Okay, so Brig, Keith, Christian, Stephen. Okay, in that order. Brig.
Right, to pick up on Hannah's point about more interaction with local groups and more knowing what local groups are doing. One of the jobs that I do for WCA is the compiling the newsletters, and I'm always short on getting information in from local groups. So any local group that can send me a summary of what they're doing, then it will go in the newsletter, and if there's not enough room for it in the newsletter, it will go on the website with a little pointer in the newsletter saying click here to find out what your local groups are doing in your area. So the more the merrier. Please send in your stuff.
Yeah, and I think to put your point about the website, there's also an area that you can put a lot of stuff on as well. If you look on the website, there's a forum there that doesn't work very well, but it would be nice if we actually develop that a bit more or something like it. Keith.
Hello, Happy New Year, everybody. In terms of the sort of general strategy and direction on which this group should be focused, I mean, I'm quite a newcomer to the area. And in the past, I've been involved with trying to influence Ealing Council in London. And the conclusion I came to from that, unfortunately, was that councils don't have such a massive direct influence on the total climate emissions of any particular region. The biggest impact is nearly always the major businesses and organisations operating within a region. So the jump off the page bullet point from your list of things to focus on was bigger engagement with community/business and working out. It seems to me that if you want to take some volunteer action to have a direct impact on climate change in Wiltshire, maybe bringing more pressure to bear on the largest emitting and most environmentally damaging businesses in operation might be the way that this organisation got more bang for its buck. My problem, having made that statement, I'm then left with the, how do you do that? I don't even know where I would begin to get a list of the biggest climate emission businesses in Wiltshire, or how do you engage with them in a way which influences them? But businesses really respond to their customers and pressure from their marketplace. So that could be a very effective way for this organisation to work. That was my view.
Christian, who's the next speaker, will answer in spades on that one, Keith. We agree with you entirely. Go on, Chris.
Yeah, well, 2 quick points, really. I first want to pick up on Hannah's point, which I think is excellent. And it just makes you think that I think the time has come to meet in person and to have some kind of event where all the groups come together and have a in-person thing. And I don't know what people think, but I think it'd be really lovely to have I don't know, a big meeting where everybody can come and share views and some kind of conference type thing in person. I don't know, but it takes work to do that, Hannah, and so on. So if it's something that we think it would be good, I'd be happy to come along and join in the planning of some kind of event to happen, maybe in the autumn. So it might be quite a long way off because it takes work to get that kind of stuff going, and so on. But it might be something, if you're wanting to get stuck in and want to lead on a particular bit of work around getting all the groups together physically. It doesn't have to be physically, but I think the time's come for us to do that and to be able to chat over a beer or whatever it is, to have that. And so can I just cover that point, Hannah? What do you think? Do you fancy getting involved in that kind of thing?
I do quite like sort of organising events. So I'm obviously trying. I'm kind of the main person organising our little group as well.
There's potential, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that would be really good, and it is all the chats that you have, isn't it? Informal chats where you make the connections and everything.
If anybody wants to get involved in planning a get-together event where we're sharing information in a physical place, please could you put your details in the chat, and then we'll pick that up and we'll try and do some work. I'm a bit limited in leading stuff, but Hannah, I get a feeling that you might have fancied that, or anybody else.
With help. The other thing I would say is that I think that's a great idea to try and pay someone. And I know Stroud has a transition town person. I think they're actually paid from the council, by the council. And I think that massively helps.
Yep,
Stuff
it
to
might
help
be.
them out.
And even if it's a few £100, and to be honest, we've got a few £100 to pay someone to help organise. And I think it might be something that the steering group might want to discuss tomorrow, so whether we want to pay someone to start organising certain things like that. And I think that's quite a good example of getting people together. There's nothing like that to motivate people to get on and do stuff. And so, sorry, Hannah, is that all right?
I was just going to say, yeah, maybe, a young person, or, someone that wants some experience, because we can help them.
Yep. In fact, someone recently wanted to join the youth group, didn't they? They sent an email saying they wanted to get involved in stuff. I can't remember who that was. Poppy sent through the details. But anyway, yes, there's all sorts of opportunities, isn't there? Karis, I can see you nodding your head. Are you going to say something? No. Okay. So, and the other bit.
Christian, I'm going to pick up the thing from Keith now.
Yes, I'm going to. Yeah. And Maggie's coming in there.
I'm just going to say, Christian, I mean, don't forget about people in the park. I mean,
yes.
Maybe that's happening again.
It is happening again.
Not exactly what you're talking about in terms of chat, but it's an opportunity for people to get together anyway. But you're talking about something slightly different, aren't you?
Yeah, I am slightly. This is more for members sharing stuff rather than public. But we'll have a look. Let's have arrange a meeting, Hannah, and we'll do something. And Keith, we try to do lots of work around getting businesses involved, and it sounds relatively simple, but it's a flipping nightmare when you start opening that box. And Tess will test them, and we'll testify to that, I think, because both I and Tess try to take it on. We do have a spreadsheet of all the council, the business rate pairs and all their contact details. So we have that spreadsheet, about 14,000 businesses in Wiltshire and so on, and by how much they pay and so on. So that's a separate bit of work which we've attempted. And again, Keith, if you fancy taking on a bit of work in looking at businesses and how we interact, I think it's slightly fallen off the workflow because it was such a big piece of work. But Keith, are you up for a bit of looking at that? I mean, I don't know, Tess, I don't know where we are with it, so I've got to be careful of offering that work on. And where's Tess still here?
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where it was left last, I did make a business network page on LinkedIn, actually, which is a private group for different businesses in Wiltshire to join, who are all trying to move forward with their sustainability journey. Got quite a bit of interest, but progress is quite difficult when reaching out to businesses, cold emails and calls and things. We found that people who were already aware of WCA were much more interested than us just reaching out to people on that Excel sheet. But then obviously, we sort of shifted our priorities a little bit, and now I'm focusing on a few other things. So yeah, has sort of just dropped off, unfortunately.
Yeah. Keith?
I guess if you start with 14,000 on a list of all companies paying rates, and that's going to make it look like a big task, isn't it? My initial reaction might be maybe you just ask everyone in a town, who are the big firms in your areas doing stuff, like chemical plants or cement makers or big agricultural fertilizer producers, the ones doing the material energy intensive businesses. And my gut feel is we don't have a steel industry in Wiltshire. We don't have a cement making industry in Wiltshire. We don't have a big mining industry in Wiltshire, do we? We have a massive agricultural industry. It's usually those that are the really big hitters, to be honest. And it might be better to sort of say, could we get a list of the top 20 damaging organisations in Wiltshire, and then try and think about how we address them? Because just getting your local taxi firm to change a bit isn't going to have any influence.
Keith, that's absolutely. It's a little bit along similar lines to some of the discussions we've had before. The problem is progressing it and because it's time consuming getting that kind of stuff, that ball rolling and getting. Is this something that you fancy getting stuck in? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, you are. I think it is. You know, I've had a career in UK industry, and I've done a load of work on emissions of organisations and stuff like that. So I'm probably pretty well placed. Okay. So yeah, I'll take that on as my 2022 commitment to WCA to see what we can do on influencing big emission businesses. Come on then.
Lovely. Keith, that's fantastic. I suggest that you, me, and Tess have a little sub meeting and see what's been done so far, and then work a plan for that. Tess, does that sound all right with you?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there, just so before we finish, anybody want to join Keith's team, because he's going to need more help than just him?
We've got a message in the chat actually from James saying he'd be happy to help, which is great.
Good.
Yeah, happy to help, Keith.
Excellent.
And who's calling the meeting? Is that me?
Maybe. I mean, I'm happy to give you guys the dates that I'm free.
Okay, Tess, if you're okay with that. So if you coordinate that first meeting, Tess, you're okay. And I'm sure they're on about taking another. That's lovely. Excellent. Thank you, Tess.
Brilliant. Excellent stuff. Good. A new topic group has formed again. Reform. Excellent. Brilliant. Okay. Who we got? Stephen wanted to say something.
Thanks. This is addressing the organisational question. Forgive me my ignorance here, but my understanding of the Wiltshire Climate Alliance is that it's a loose organisation. It's an association of people, organisations all around the county who are coming together on a voluntary basis, which is fine, works very well in my opinion. However, if you start to think about employing someone, which was one of the suggestions, then my advice is that you will need to consider being a legal entity in your own right. And that has considerable ramifications once you start to think about it. And so I'm just...
That's all being considered, thanks. We did discuss previously maybe changing entities. So yeah, we're aware that we'd have to get something a bit more formalized if we want to employ people.
Yeah, well, all I'm saying is it's a road that you need to think about very carefully if you propose to travel down it. I'm not saying you don't.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just flagging that up.
No, it's good to call out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, rather than a breakout group, that's been an incredibly useful exchange of information and ideas and people and over the last 15, 20 minutes. I think we can, Chris, I think we can still break out into small groups just for, I don't know what the time is now, quarter of an hour chat.
Okay, so this is, because all sorts of more stuff, I think it's likely, am I on?
Yeah. So what we're saying is looking at anything else we want to do as a group and as individuals. I would particularly like to think about the what are individuals going to be doing, not necessarily in WCA, but on their own behalf, or their group on their own behalf, if you like.
Yeah.
Just to come back out and say, yeah, we're now committed to doing these things. But I think we should just leave it about 15 minutes for all of it, because we're now at 8:15. Thank you very much. I think all the groups probably got something out of that. I think it would be, if there was somebody taking some notes in each of those groups, please can you feed it back to us through the chat, or even send it just to contact@wiltshireclimatealliance.org.uk. That would be really helpful, because that will help us to put all that together to go out in the notes of the meeting to people, so we've got some ideas. I think we had three, which was basically two things we are doing already. One of which was about transport and jointly transport and housing, and they're big issues to be tackled, and we're already tackling those in our groups. And then agriculture, the big one, which we're also tackling in the land use group. So we're dealing with those things. And the third one was about engagement with the council on their analysis of the emissions in the county, which they're employing a consultant to do. But I'll put those into the notes. Does anybody else want to feedback very quickly on what their group had?
We had a quick chat about fuel poverty and needing to link that with more insulation and so on. I'm not quite sure how that's going to progress, but some kind of work around maybe thermal imaging or whatever, and area boards, maybe trying to get initiatives in area boards to tackle poorly insulated houses in those areas. So for example, Graham, it could be Graham chairs my area board. It could be that we put a funding bid in for work to be done around poorly insulated houses to help people or something. I don't know, but yeah, here we go. Bit vague.
Yeah, I think Brig, and then Julian, then Steve. Brig.
Yeah, in our group we mentioned revitalising the waste route and including as well as just the incinerator question, creating a focus on getting food waste recycling in Wiltshire. And we also talked about farming, and we'd really like to have a meeting with Minette Batters.
Yeah, we're arranging that actually.
Chair of the NFU. Yeah.
Brig, we're arranging for Minette to come and meet us.
Great.
We're already on with that. Thanks, Brig. Who's running the voice group?
Well, we've got another meeting scheduled. I suppose I'm running that. It would be good to have someone with new energy to take it on, but I'll run that next meeting in the meantime.
Thanks, Brig. Appreciate that. Julian.
Yeah, interestingly, a common theme that came up in our group was people finding out what was going on in their own town, what else was going on in their own town. So they were all, a lot of people were actually doing things, focusing on particular things, but not really quite sure what else was going on. So yeah, I don't know how WCA can help with that, but it would be something to think about.
Very much so, but that comes back to website working better, newsletter going out more regularly, getting information from people to feed into it. I think if people can feed in, which is what Brig asked for earlier, then that would work really well, that we actually have a newsletter going out regularly with information about all sorts of things going on in the county. So message out to everybody, please send your interesting information to Brig for a newsletter as often as you can. And if you can't get Brig's email, use contact that. That'll get to us.
Yeah,
David.
I think there might be something around facilitating local groups as well, as we talked about, helping people, an expert that can help to, get sort of transition groups and things working for individual towns.
Yeah, we need to think about that at the steering group tomorrow, because I think it's a key message, isn't it? Stephen.
Yeah, our group considered, apparently, according to Beanland, who is the person to go to now, because he raised the subject, is that properties in the county and nationwide who have heating based on oil and LPG are going to be required to cease heating their houses by that means in the very near future. And there's a public consultation being run by Westminster on this. And I think that will be of significance to an awful lot of people in the county. And I think Bean could advise the group further about that. That would be very helpful indeed.
Okay, yeah, Bean, you wanted to talk about that very quickly. I don't know if yeah, have you got the time?
Yeah, thanks very much. I just thought, given that this is a, Wiltshire obviously largely rural community, I guess the density of oil and LPG fired properties is probably higher in Wiltshire than it is on average across the UK. This should be a topic that I think is worth highlighting. The difficulty we've got is the timeframes are very short. There are 2 consultations, right? Well, there are 3 actually running at the moment, but 2 that are relative to off-gas communities. One for large commercial buildings and one for small commercial and all domestic buildings. The proposals as they stand are for large commercial to effectively ban the replacement of fossil fuel boilers from 2024, which is only 2 years away, and for small commercial and private dwellings from 2026. Now, if we accept that boilers last around 10 years, what it means is effectively every year from those dates on, we're going to have to replace approximately 10% of the fossil fuel off-gas boiler fleet. So that's the impact, that, you know, people whose boilers are falling over from 2026 onwards will be obliged to do something other than replace the boiler. So it is significant. I just think that it would be, I don't expect most private individuals, and therefore most of your members, to be able to respond to the consultations on a technical basis. They'll certainly, I'm sure, have some comments to make about against some of the questions, but the really valuable, I think, opportunity here is to get as many people as possible to suggest to government that this is going to require some financial assistance, and that we try and align the financial assistance requirement with what government is likely to be able to afford, which to my mind is likely to be better accommodated with a loan scheme than with such as is currently operating in Scotland, rather than short-term grants and subsidies, which always cause a problem and actually are always detrimental to investment ability for the industry itself. I'm actually, one of your colleagues asked me to just put a little paper together, which I'm trying to do, which I think you're probably going to try and circulate to members over the next couple of days.
Yeah, you've given me something, Brig. Is that, sorry?
Yeah, I'm going to try and just add to it a bit of commentary on where one might put in some comments about funding, future funding. So it's for me, it's about access to high quality information and technical assistance, and then access to funding to make it affordable.
Good, thanks, Bean. And if you can get that out, we'll get that out as soon as you've got it. It will go out to all members. Kelly, could you, is you around? I think you are. Hello, Kelly.
Sorry, yes. Hiya, sorry, just plugging back in.
Sorry, Kelly, this is a massive issue. Is there any chance you can get this out into BBC land?
Quite possibly. This is why I'm here. I'm trying to pick up as many messages and information as I possibly can.
But an interview with Bean,
yeah,
explaining the problem would be a brilliant thing to do.
If I could please, I'll pop again in the chat my contact details, Bean, and anybody else, local groups and so on and so forth. Please do drop me a message, and Bean, I'll give you a shout tomorrow if you can let me know a contact number and a good time to call you, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely fine. I mean, my email address and mobile number are in the chat already. You should be able to find them in the chat.
Cool. I will scroll back and find you. Thanks, Bean.
Have a look. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys. That's really helpful. So where do we want to go from here? I think we were going to do that one issue, and then just a quick 2 minutes each on topic groups and what we're doing in 2022. Sue, are you still around?
Hiya, sorry.
Yeah, hi Sue. Could you possibly give a briefing on what we've sort of agreed in terms of the land use group?
Yes.
And then I'll ask Adam and Andrew to do the same.
Yeah, I think we're kind of tying up now, aren't we? So
yeah.
Obviously we're continuing in our land use and management group. We're continuing to be a kind of support and peer support group in terms of people across the county working on their own eco groups or rewilding verges or community orchards or whatever they're doing. There is a little bit of a focus on the community environment toolkit and seeing if we can support people in those groups or in those parish councils to get going on that. And within that, what we're going to do is have some very interesting speakers. We had a good chat today, and we've got some very interesting speakers, I think, lined up to come along. So we're always going to have a good speaker there, either from picking up on some of the comments in the chat actually earlier on, picking up on the agricultural stuff from some of the farmers and how they're finding the new elm schemes and so on, and how they're adapting to the changes in farming, and because they want to support, but there is my sense at the moment is that they want to do it, obviously, and they are people that love the land generally. Obviously, that's why they're farmers, but they also are somewhat stifled by some of the bureaucracy and processes and how it's all being rolled out. But anyway, that's we'll learn more, and you can all learn more if you come along to our land use management group meetings. And the other thing we are thinking of doing, which is also has come up this evening actually, is to try and have some face-to-face events during the year where we kind of do an outing to something like Hen and Browning's organic farm, or just to go in to see what's going on in Bradford Raven, for instance, and people can take us around and show, well, we've done this, we've got this community orchard here, and we've done this is our wildflower meadow, or or this is what we've done with our wetlands, or this is what we've done with our woodlands, or this is how we got together and bought a piece of land and turned it into a wildflower meadow. So those kind of things. So we're going to kind of do trips out into the community and also have some time to get together. That's where we are as a little group. So come along if you're able. Was it third Monday of the month?
Yeah.
Bill? Yes.
Third Monday, 6 o'clock. Yeah.
At 6 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. Next one is the 17th of January, and we have Simon Watchhorn, who's going to be an expert and explain the situation with pigs and subsidies and what DEFRA is saying at the moment.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys. Okay, Andrew?
Yeah. Before I kick off, I'd just like to say I'd be very keen to talk brief land use group on what I've learned over the last 2 months about methane and livestock. Transport group, okay. I've already flagged up that we've got some policies which in the mainstream of transport activists in Wiltshire over the last 10, 20, 30 years, Margaret will agree. And so we're trying to solve the conundrum of how to get Wiltshire Council to have climate friendly transport policy, which turns towards active travel and away from new roads. They're starting to stick out like a sore thumb compared with the surrounding authorities in a regional context. On active travel, we decided to try and kick off and found and host an active travel forum for the county, modelled somewhat on one that's been founded in Somerset, which would be hosted by Wiltshire Climate Alliance, but not part of Wiltshire Climate Alliance, so that a very broad group of people and groups, stakeholders come together to try and develop a concrete vision for a network of multi-use greenways. I hate the word strategic network, but across the county. And this fits very well with what Richard Clure was saying about, oh, well, we need off-road cycle routes between every town in Wiltshire and every other to get people cycling. So he walks the walk. But the transport and highways team in Wiltshire Council is not the most modern and progressive. We're still trying to get our foot in the door on being consulted on cycling, walking, active travel, get the funding for bus and rail. The council has committed to bus, but not to rail, even though there are still two major rail strategy documents that have yet to come to cabinet, that were published 2 years ago and 1.5 years ago.
Pressure on the cabinet. Good question to ask. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. Adam.
Yeah, so the energy group focus that we agreed at the end of last year is going to be on retrofitting existing homes to make them greener. It's a topic that keeps coming up at every meeting, and very, very much of interest to individuals as well as member groups. So what we want to develop is some sort of repository of information and contacts, so that individuals and member groups have got a ready source of information about latest thinking in retrofit. Not that we want to become the experts, because there's plenty of good expertise around there, like CSE and so on, but a more of a local point of contact, so you know where to go to get a good expert or someone who knows what they're talking about, like Bean, for instance, on heat pumps or whatever. And so that's what we're going to be developing over the next few meetings. next meeting is, always the third Tuesday of the month. So the next one would be 18th of January at 7 o'clock, and you can register via the WCA website.
Thanks, Adam. Brilliant. Okay, I think we're there or thereabouts in the end, and I appreciate everybody's input. It's been brilliant.
Bill,
Somebody wants
Bill,
to say something? Yes, Chris.
Can I just add something?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, my voice is starting to go. I just wanted to add that we're creating this page on the website, basically names of people who are willing to help to give advice or to chat to anybody about something that they know. So I'll just show you very quickly on the website. So I'm just going to take you to the website here. Hopefully that's coming up for you now. If you go to the interesting stuff bit, and then the next one is helpful advice to go green. So if you click on that, we will be making this page more prominent. And the first one is here to help. And if you click on the list here, it'll take you to the relevant page, which I'll make more obvious in due course. But here is, so if people are thinking about having heat source pumps put in or solar PV, they can talk to anybody here who will give them their own personal experience and advice and so on. And if you feel that you are one of these people who's had some PV put in or insulation of a particular kind or something that might be useful, or if you've had experience in starting up your own group, let's say. So it doesn't have to be about retrofitting, it can be about anything. So if you're basically volunteering to say, yeah, I'm happy to speak to someone who's starting up a group to give them some advice, or I'm happy to talk to someone who's looking to put an air source heat pump and learn the pitfalls or what's good about it, etc. Ideally, it's not someone who's in the business. So it's completely not for, there's no gain in it whatsoever. So if you want to be put on that list, just send us an email, go to that page and send us an email from there. Thanks, Bill.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. I've absolutely forgotten about that. And that's exactly what we were trying to develop that at the end of last year. And it's looking good already. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So all I've got left is next meetings. We've talked about a few of them this. Yeah, hang on, Brick. Pick it up. Yeah. And we've got a couple of meetings set up to deal with the 1st and the 15th. And the next one of these meetings is, when is it? Somebody tell me, Eva, are you still there? Hang on. February.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Second. So this our next members meeting is on the 2nd of February, yes, Eva?
Yeah, I'm not sure, sorry.
I'll double check. I'll check.
The first Wednesday of the month is the 2nd.
Second, yes. Yeah. So it's the 2nd. And God knows where we've got to by then with all the things we're dealing with.
It's the day after the cabinet meeting, so we should be able to get some feedback from that.
Good feedback, yeah. Good idea, Adam. Okay, Brig, you wanted to say something?
Yes. Before this meeting closes down and everything disappears, I wanted to remind everybody to go into the chat, and where you get to the bottom where you put in something in the chat, if you go to the right hand side of the top of that where it says to everyone, you find 3 little dots and you click on that, then you can save the chat so that you get all people's contact details and everything else that they put in the chat, and then you can go through it afterwards and take out the bits you want. But you've got to do it before the screen starts closing down.
Thank you, Brig. Thanks for that reminder. Very good.
Yep.
Okay.
And just people, Bill, just so you know, we'll leave the door. I shan't close this meeting down for another 20 minutes or so. If people want to have a chatter or whatever in an informal fashion, we leave it open. That's a bit of a WCA tradition. We don't necessarily close it down straight away. There you go. Back to you, Bill.
Guys, thank you all very much for coming, and we appreciate all your input. And I'm glad we've got lots of people wanting to action things. It's wonderful.
Andrew's got his hand up.
Thank you. Oh, Andrew.
Yes, Brig, the newsletter that Brig sent out on the 15th of December was exceptionally brilliant. And I think he deserves thanks for pulling that together. Bill, you deserve thanks for chairing Wiltshire Climate Alliance, because is this the last meeting you're chairing for the time being?
Well, maybe.
There's only over 30 of us at this meeting, which is marvelous. And that's
46 we were at the biggest, I
we
think.
were. So I'm sorry to the other 12 people, but Bill, if it hadn't been for the way you run things, and I hope we can fill your shoes, as the rotating chair rotates, that a meeting like this with this many people 2 years into an organization wouldn't always be this big. So
thank you, Andrew.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And we'll see you at the next meetings.